that I want to show you that was in process, a draft where this student, I think, kind of got caught up in what they assumed was supposed to be the beginning of an essay. All right. So I'm going to read it as it is. I'm going to read the first and second paragraph and then talk to you about the feedback I gave the student. Society has created many different stereotypes for several different people. Even from a young age, children are subjected to these stereotypes. Believe it or not, these stereotypes are what shape us. They surround us and our interactions with others, good or bad, mostly bad. At an early age, stereotyping can affect how children feel about themselves and how they relate to others. Gender roles, gender patterns, and stereotypes deeply installed in family and society about what careers are appropriate for both men and women have an impact on future education of boys and girls and their career choices. I remember being the one kid who wouldn't play with the other boys during recess. I'd rather jump rope with the girls. I loved jumping rope, but stereotypically I should be playing soccer, right, based on gender roles. Back then I didn't understand stereotypes. I just enjoyed jumping rope. If I knew what I knew now, maybe I wouldn't have enjoyed it as much or may not have tried it at all. Fast forward a decade and time, and here I am in college talking about the same topics I had no idea existed way back when, just in a different format. Okay, a little funky there. But the feedback that I gave this student when we were drafting, and I hope you could kind of hear it, is that first paragraph is like so kind of traditional that I'm like, what are you saying? This isn't really saying anything at all. So I suggested that the student actually start with the second paragraph, and of course to clean it up. But I think this is a much more powerful image, right? So much more powerful image of like choosing to jump rope with the girls versus to kind of play other sports with the boys, right? This image gives us something directly to connect to rather than this where you have the move of society has created different stereotypes. Stereotypes influence us. Stereotypes affect what kind of jobs we have. I'm like, okay, yeah, I know that. So giving us an image to hold on to, I think, is much more effective. At this point, I would be like, what do you think? What's going on? I don't know what New thinks, but she's not interested in what's happening now. Anyway, cool. Those are examples of beginnings, and I hope that helps you to see how you can start off your essay. This is not something I'm asking you to like write up and turn in this week, but we will be heading toward that. So however your time looks, depending on your other classes, keep that in mind. What I'd like to talk to you about now, which is super important because I'm going to ask you to actually write this up, okay, for a discussion board this week. I want you to consider your rhetorical situation. And this is on page 416 in the Norton if you need to look back at specifics, but I do have some of those things listed here on this slide. Okay, your rhetorical situation, if you'll remember, and as I would probably ask you in class, I'd be like, what are the parts of rhetorical situation? Here they are. I'm just going to assume that you're going to yell it back at the screen. Okay. So, rhetorical situation, to remind you, we're looking at what is our purpose, our audience, our genre, our stance, and the media and design. Two of these things are kind of given, but the other three, I really need you to think about and kind of give me some really good content and thought about what you want to do. First thing, purpose. What do you want your audience to do? Do you want them to think a certain way, to take a certain action, to change their minds, to consider alternatives, to accept your position? Or if you're exploring, like, what do you want them to appreciate or understand? Like, do you want them to appreciate or understand a specific thing? Sorry, that's the way I wanted to phrase it. And maybe it is deciding you want them to appreciate or you want them to understand. or you want them to have a context for something. But I want you to think about, what are you trying to do with this essay that you're writing? And I know really that might feel like a silly question because I'm assigning it to you, but force yourself to think a little bit larger than school. What are you trying to do with this essay? Number 2, your audience. Who is your intended audience? What do they likely know and believe about your topic? How personal is it for them? Etc. Really, I should have marked this as given as well, but I also want you to be able to think a little bit wider. So your direct audience, the one that you know that you're like kind of writing toward and around, is me and the other students in the class. But there's always potential for this essay that you're working on to reach your wider audience. We could talk about submitting it somewhere for publication, so you can think about a wider audience than just us. So go ahead and make sure that you think about that, and think about what do we already know or believe about your topic, or what do you assume other people know? Do we have a personal stake in what you're writing about, or are you going to have to convince us to even see your discussion as important, right? Your genre is given, but please list it because you're writing a research essay. That's what your genre is. 4th, your stance. I think this is going to be super interesting to hear from everyone about. What is your attitude toward your topic and why? What strategies will you use to convey your stance? I don't know what was going on with that sentence. Forgive me for typing that out all funky. Sorry. What strategies will you use to convey that stance? Okay, so are you going to, particularly in thinking about rhetoric, like the classic ethos, pathos, logos, kairos, right? Are you going to convey your stance with kind of emotional appeals, logical appeals, credibility? Think about that. I want to know what you're doing. How do you want your audience to perceive you? Are you an authority? Are you a peer? Are you going to be writing with a tone that is calm and reasonable, or impassioned and angry, or something else? Okay, what's going on there with your stance? How you feel about your topic, your attitude toward your topic. The 5th thing, the media and design, is kind of given, but you can also consider if there's visual integration that you might want to attempt for your essay. Is there a really cool chart? Is there an image that might be really powerful? Think about that. I want to be able to talk about what kind of effect that would have on your readers. But this is what I want you to do for thinking about your essay. It's what is your rhetorical situation as you sit down to attempt to write this essay? Okay. Final slide. Yay. What you're actually doing for this week. So your assignments for week 11, which runs the 23rd through the 27th, Friday the 27th. So by Friday at 11:59 p.m., this is what I want you to post on the discussion board. I want you to post your research question. So refine your research question, particularly if you had it in yes or no structure. Set it up as something that isn't yes or no structure. If you are particularly, upset about how to do that, I'm really excited about what's happening right now, so I'm going to talk to you while New is near me. Okay. Sorry. Post your question, your research question. Create a working thesis. All right, create a working thesis. A step 2, if you will, in thesis creation. So it doesn't have to be particularly specific, but I do want to see a syntactical setup of your thesis statement. Even if it's not perfect, give me an attempt. So basically I can see that you know how to work through moving from a question to flipping it around and making it a statement. Try your best. I'll give you some feedback if it really just doesn't work, and hopefully we can give each other feedback. I'm not forcing you to reply to each other, but I'm really hoping that maybe you'll feel like you'll want to. to maintain some kind of social connection in all of this craziness. Okay. Third thing, are you exploring or are you arguing? Let me know. That's number 3. Are you exploring or are you arguing? The fourth thing is to establish your rhetorical situation. So go back to this slide and basically answer all this stuff. Think about it, okay? That's what I want to see on your discussion board entry for this week, which again is due Friday the 27th by 11:59 p.m. Looking toward next week or the rest of the semester is to start thinking about your essay. Consider attempting a beginning move. Consider making notes for outline suggestions, because I'm going to have stuff due very soon. It's going to feel fast, maybe. I don't know how time is passing for you all where you are, but as a reminder, if we look just even at the schedule, your discussion board is due Friday for week 11. Simple, but it's a lot of thinking, right? Really thinking about what kind of shape your essay is going to take. But then note next week, okay, by Friday of next week, you need to have a partial essay draft or an outline due so I can give you some feedback, okay? And of course, the more you have done, the more I'll be able to respond to you individually and as a group. We can also talk about whether we want to kind of like establish a schedule for individual meetings, or if you just want my written feedback and call it good and you text me or call me if you have questions, or if we want to say here's when we're going to video chat at this time, this day about your essay. So you can let me know that in the discussion board as well if you have a preference about online chatting or just what am I trying to say, digital feedback, written feedback. That's it, written feedback. The way that I did with this student here, let me find it real quick. No, there. The way I did with this student where I made suggestions and kind of highlighted stuff that was kind of funky. You can think about what you want from me in that sense. Okay. I think that's all. I think I'm done. I hope. Okay. Please let me know what you think of this structure, if it works for you or not. And then what I should do if it doesn't work for you. I guess it's if you say you hate it, give me some different kind of feedback, because again, we do need to kind of work on that 1 hour for me, and then you do 2 hours of work-ish to maintain academic continuity. But when I think about the 2 hours of work you're doing, I'm also kind of including the reading. So now you know what you got to do for the end of week 11. And I miss being in the classroom with you guys. Again, this is a struggle for me, but I hope you're having an okay time. As always, please, 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 along with the work that you have to do in the discussion board, let us all know how you're doing. And reach out to each other, because social connection right now is important, even as we are distanced. So that's all I have to say. I hope that you have a good week 11. And let's see if Newt will say goodbye. 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 Ow. Bye.